The last approach here is the sociocultural. And the main guy here is Vygotsky. Vygotsky was Russian, and he died very, very young, I think of tuberculosis, in his early 30s, late 20s even, early 30s I think. But what work he did leave behind has been, of course, very important in the sociocultural approach. And for him, of course, the main part of development occurs within the culture, in particular language. Language is so important. And we talked about this before, where language can shape the way that you even view your world. So he believes that development at the individual level, in particular, is a product of, number one, the beliefs, the customs, your skills of the culture that you learn from apprentices, so to speak. And these apprentices are your parents, your teachers, your peers. And you learn and you develop within that particular context. For instance, some of the big research back, not so much now, but used to be a lot of research conducted back in the 80s and 90s on the differences in the acquisition of mathematical skill. And I'm sure you're aware of this research. It was really quite robust, where they were trying to figure out if there were differences in how Asian and non-Asian cultures or students learned, in particular math, because of the big gap between the abilities. And they wanted to know, was it something genetic or was it something environmental, in this case, the culture. And it turns out that, of course, it's not genetic, that there's a cultural effect. There are no pretty much racial differences when it comes to IQ. We're all pretty very much equal. What will vary, however, is the culture within which you exert these skills or learn these skills. And in the Asian culture, a lot of emphasis was placed on performance, a lot of emphasis was placed on working hard, and not on being born with intelligence, which is more the Western view, that if you're born with it, then you either have it or you don't, which makes some people really terrified of hard courses like physics or math or calculus, because they figure if they don't have the gene, then when they go into the classroom, it's going to show itself. When in fact, the Asian culture doesn't really ascribe to that kind of a philosophy. It's more about anybody can be anything you want if you apply the work to it. So you can actually learn the skill. And parents also emphasize this approach where there's work outside of the classroom, in the home. Everybody kind of supports this view that you can acquire knowledge. You don't have to be born with it. Now, no one denies that you aren't born with some genes for IQ, of course, but a lot of the emphasis is placed on the environment. So Vygotsky actually, kind of looked at this approach and said the culture is really an important part of your development. So thinking and problem solving are going to be tools of intellectual adaptation, right? You have to adapt in order to survive in a particular culture. And of course now in the Western world, the biggest adaptation is technological. If you go out into the job market and you don't have any computer skills, good luck, right? So it's not that we have to go out and hunt and gather now and show our, our abilities to knock down a buffalo or something, but it will be important to know that you have, computer savvy to some extent, or you can learn. So again, this is all about the apprenticeship kind of interaction with people who are members of the society, and these apprenticeships are based on, again, on parents teaching you, right? And again, teachers and those kinds of people who mentor you. So this is all about dialectical processes, interaction, teaching, back and forth, right? And you learn to internalize these skills, and they become part of your developmental history. A lot of the graduate programs in our particular school system are based on this notion of dialectical and apprenticeship, where you have a faculty advisor, and that person works with you to help you hone the skills for your research or whatever it is you're doing in grad school. So this is a whole idea, but for Vygotsky, it was a way of life. It's how you actually built your knowledge base and developed intellectually. All right? Whatever it is you're doing in grad school. So this is a whole idea, but for Vygotsky, it was a way of life. It's how you actually built your knowledge base and developed intellectually. All right? So I'm going to show you this particular same idea.